You can see I chased them out of that territory, and I basically retreated because I don't know if there's an MG in that bunker or not. You can see here that even though the Jeep is a vehicle, it does take pretty decent damage even from the weakest of enemy infantry, such as the engineer. Because of that, I'm going to take it back and have it healed by repairing it with an engineering team.
Begin raid operations.
You can see that I've just unlocked a raid, so instead of having the Jeep healed, I'm using it to capture points. That is one of the main functions of going to armor, is the fact that you can use light vehicles to capture points instead of infantry. This makes your capturing utility great, especially when facing MG fire, because now you don't have to worry about being pinned down when you try to capture a point. Additionally, infantry seem to be a little bit more squishy when they're trying to capture a point. The person capturing the point isn't capable of firing back, so you have reduced firepower, and it seems to me that your defenses go down a little bit when you try to capture a point as well. So switching to a vehicle capturing a point, especially a slightly armored one like an armored car, really increases your ability to take points from under the enemy's nose. You can see here that I'm making use of the engineer's flamethrower. Essentially, the flamethrower throws the cover system right out the window. In fact, it kind of reverses it. Flamethrowers do increased damage, or increasing damage against increasing levels of cover. So for instance, it'll do 100% damage at normal cover, like just standard neutral area. It does increased damage to light cover, and even more damage to heavy cover. So by rushing them at a unit who was in cover, or especially in a building, really makes the engineer a useful infantry late game. It's especially useful against vehicles as well, which will come into play later. Here you see I'm still pumping out armored cars, mainly just to keep the assault on the German base up. Additionally, I want to try and get that point being covered by an MG, and it's really hard to capture that with the infantry, so I'm going to go in with an armored car.
Losing ground.
You may also notice I'm spending a lot of my munitions upgrading the armored car. Even though they are armored cars, they do take damage still from small arms, just reduced damage. And a shape charge attack like a Panzerfaust or a Panzerschreck can still do a lot of damage to them. So for that reason, I upgrade them with anti-infantry, 50 caliber machine guns, as well as with armored skirts, just to reduce the damage they take from incoming fire.
Ready to go.
By this point, you see I've also taken most of the map. Just using an assortment of infantry, of engineers, of riflemen, or using my vehicles, I've captured most of the points by this point, and pretty much put a chokehold on him in terms of resources. Here you can see my armored car just charging through machine gun fire like it's nothing. And by putting him in that particular position, if his infantry retreat, I'll be able to catch them with that second armored car, and we'll be able to chew them to bits before he can reinforce. Additionally, if it's not doing that, it can start taking out his infrastructure. By taking out his Wehrmacht quarters, I'll be able to prevent him from producing machine gun teams, snipers, motorcycles, or also Volksgrenadiers. You can see by this point I pretty much have an iron grip around his resources and his base with my armored cars and infantry. By this point, I'm going to try and take out his infrastructure, and then I'm going to start focusing on the bunkers, because then I can bring my infantry up and just bring all my forces to bear against its headquarters and anything that may be in that area. As you can see, there's no MG in that particular bunker, just the MG team there. So I'll be able to bring some infantry down and capture that point in a second. You can see there that my engineer team was getting hit by MG fire, and when it starts blinking yellow, it means they're about to be suppressed, so it's best to get out of there now. You can still get a few shots off before that happens, so units with a bazooka, like Rangers or Panzer Grenadiers, up with Panzerschrecks or Stormtroopers, anything of that nature, they can still get a few shots off with their Panzerschreck, and they might be able to kill the MG in time, but I find that most of the times it does damage, but they're just going to repair it in the meantime anyhow, so it's best just to retreat. At this point, I've pretty much destroyed the Wehrmacht quarters. Just going to take a few more hits to go. And things like his MG team really aren't that imposing at this point in time, especially with my fully upgraded armored cars. Because Warmock Quarters is gone now, actually, so now I'll be able to focus on those bunkers.
Reinforcement underway.
At this point, I know the game's pretty much over just based on previous experiences, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start building a tank depot. I'm going to try and increase my offensive power as much as possible to try and bring this game to an end as quickly as possible.
We are gunned up and good to go. We're getting shot up here.
Enemy unit down.
You can see at this point how there's pretty much nothing left on the map for the computer player. That's essentially the hallmark of endgame right there. And by most times in multiplayer against real humans, the game would be over. However, I do have to make mention that the easy computer is by far just a cakewalk and a great way to train for playing the game. But when you're playing against other players, you really do have to develop a completely different skill set to be able to take them on, which is what I'm trying to introduce here to any novices who may be seeing seeing this game played for the first time and are kind of interested in it. You can see there that I've started construction on a crocodile tank to help deal with the buildings, and in addition to that, I've started equipping engineers with flamethrowers. I've also just upgraded to fast deployment so my tanks can come out quicker, and I've also upgraded to a field repair ability so my vehicles can repair on the field without needing an engineer at the cost of munitions. Here you can see how I've focused fire on the bunkers to make it safe for my infantry to approach, and just to really bring this game to an end as quickly as possible by taking flamethrowers to the headquarters. Crocodiles, by the way, are essentially just the M4 Sherman main battle tank, with a slightly modified cannon, where it shoots out flames basically instead of an anti-tank shell. Really makes them great for anti-infantry and anti-building purposes. Here you can see I'm bringing all my forces to bear on their main base now that the bunkers are down. Now I'm just going to try and end this as quickly as possible. You may or may not have noticed at this point that I have all my vehicles facing the headquarters in a very head-on direction. The reason for this is that the tanks in this game take damage in a fairly realistic manner, at least for the times. When this game when this war was going on, tanks were designed so that their main front armor was the strongest and thickest part, and the rest of it was a little weaker. As a result of this, they take more damage, at least in the game, by taking damage from the sides or behind. Rear armor hits are particularly destructive and can damage your engine or immobilize your tank entirely, which is terrible, especially if you're trying to run away. So the way you face them is fairly imperative when you're using them. To face them in a direction, simply just right-click and hold it down, and you can move the cursor around. They'll face whatever direction the yellow arrow is pointing. This is also important for other weapons teams as well, like the MG team or the anti-tank gun team. You have to face them in a certain direction for giving them a field of fire. For infantry, you can use this when approaching walls or other two-sided areas where you can take cover on either side. I hope you learned a little bit about how the game works from this, and you enjoyed watching this tutorial. Again, this is just a brief American tutorial, and please, if you like it, subscribe and let me know, and I can make more. Thank you.